Professor Iyengar. He is a renowned for his contribution to earthquake engineering, random vibrations, mathematical modeling, and natural science in Sanskrit. As a faculty at the Indian Institute of Science from 1969 till his retirement in 2005 as KSIDC chair professor, Iyengar published over 200 technical papers, report, journal articles, and books. He was Distinguished Smith Chair Professor, FAU USA 1995, and Director CSIR CBRI 1994 till 2000. He is currently Distinguished Emeritus Professor at the Jain University, Bangalore. Iyengar received initial training in Sanskrit studies in the traditional way. This made him an avid reader of ancient texts in the original. He has developed, combining Indic intellectual traditions with modern method, a new line of study of Indian knowledge systems. His findings on comets, eclipses, earthquakes, ancient geography, pole star through in Vedic literature, concept of probability in classical music have attracted worldwide attention. He brought out the Parasara Tantra, an ancient Sanskrit treatise on astronomy and natural sciences, with text translation and notes in 2013. He edited in 2018 Narad Shilpam, a medieval prose text on architectural civil engineering from three manuscripts with translation and notes. He is presently critically editing the Vriddha Samhita, a large corpus of manuscripts on astral sciences. A part of his corpus, namely Mahasalilam, published in 2024, is the most ancient Vedanga text on astronomy and astrology. Fellowships and honors of R.N. Iyengar include FNA, FISc, FNASI, FAVH Foundation, Raja Ramanna Fellow, Vishwasharya Award, Technology Day Award, Vaishvik Award, Saraswati Saman of Central Sanskrit University, Shastram Mahamna Award 2026. So, with this, I would like to invite Professor R.N. Iyengar to please deliver your talk.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'm going to talk about the concept of physical time in the Vedas. I will not be going into any kind of philosophical issues. We all know what is time in our own way. But to characterize or to describe or to define is not going to be easy. So in this talk, I want to restrict myself to the few Vedic concepts that eventually lead to the measurement of physical time that is both short and long. In India, in the last 4,000 to 5,000 years. I start with a statement which is there in a text called the Maitrayani Aranyaka. I have quoted that here. It says that Suryo Yonihi Kalasya Tasyaita Drupam Yanimeshadi Kalam Sambritam, etc. And later on it says Dvevava Brahmano Rupe Kalascha Akalascha. What it means is the following. It says there are two forms for Brahman, or the ultimate consciousness, or the ultimate reality, whatever you may like to call. One is Kala, the other is Akala. Kala means which has Kala. Kala in Sanskrit means parts, divisions, or discretization. So that time which is understood in parts, like the Nimisha, Masa, Vatsara, whatever may be the unit, or the sunrise to sunrise, a Muhurta, they are all Kala. But Akala doesn't have any such division. Now, when was Akala happened? It says before the birth of sun, because Surya Yonihi Kalasya. So only after the manifestation of sun, time started, or time is what we are measuring. This Akala is the Paravidya. Well, in the Vedic division of the knowledge, Paravidya and Aparavidya are divided. Aparavidya is the one which we get through our senses and intellect. That which is beyond our five senses, intellect, and our instruments is Paravidya. And sun is supposed to be the border between the Paravidya and the Aparavidya. I am concentrating only on the Aparavidya, that is the physical time. Now, how did in the Vedic period concept of time come up? We have to understand the concept of Soma and the Somapana. Generally, when we talk of Somapana, people think that it is the juice which is taken by the priests in the Somayaga and the sacrifices and things like that. Well, it is done. But if you see from where this started, in the Rig Veda, there is a mantra which says that the Indra drank 30 lakes of Soma in one go. Ekaya pratida pibat sakam saramsi trimshatam. Indraha somasya kanaka. I hope you are able to see the screen quite well. And then the explanation for this in our tradition, in the Vedic tradition, for the last nearly 4,000 years or whatever, is by Nirukta. A Nirukta is a text which is written by person, a rishi called Yaska. And the tradition says many of the Vedic mantras are used for yajnas, no doubt, but they have another meaning. That meaning is the Adidaivata meaning. That Adidaivata meaning, as per that, Indra drinks 30 lakes of Soma means it is actually the decreasing phase of moon in the Krishna Paksha. There are 15 mornings and 15 nights in a Paksha or in a fortnight, and Indra is the Kalabhimani. In fact, Sayana Bhashya, Sayana, who represents primarily the Yajnika, or the sacrificial interpretation of the Vedas, he also, of course, in many places gives the other meanings also. He says, Nairukya Prasidhya Kalabhimani Indra. Indra is actually, should be treated as time. He is a Devata, you want to call it in a traditional way as some god you can, or you can call as a natural force, or maybe a regent deity. You may give any name, or a parameter as in modern science. Indra represents time. Time measurement itself may be different, but Indra is going to be the Devata for Indra. I'm sorry, for Kala. And that Kala is actually Soma, and it is decreasing in the Krishna Paksha, that is the phases of moon. So, in this sense, moon is a proxy for Soma. So, moon is also called Soma. And Soma Rasa can be a proxy on earth of a particular plant for the original Vedic Soma. That is how in the Yajnas, a particular herb is brought, which in fact the ancient texts say it would increase for 15 days in the Shukla Paksha and it would decrease, that is, the leaves would fall down in the Krishna Paksha for 15 days. So it represented moon on earth in a way, in a symbolic way. This we have to keep in mind because all of Kala concept in Veda, starting from the Veda, is connected with Soma and Indra. Now, this number 30 which came up there, how did it come? It is a measure actually. It is a measure of the time in terms of morning and night, in the Krishna Paksha. So it is 30. If you combine the two and say it is Ahoratra, then it will be 15. These are not exact values as per modern analysis, but the modern thing which came up, modern means not the present day thing, in the Siddhanta period, Aryabhata afterwards, they were very accurate. We are talking of a period several thousand years before that. There also they had the numbers in the Rig Vedas. They were integers mostly. And there are several such numbers, 3, 7, 12, etc. You may say small numbers, maybe it represents some money which is given, some home which is there, the number of people and all that. But there is one number, very peculiar number, 3,339, that comes up in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, Trini Shata, Tri Sahasrani, etc. Now, this is a very large number. If you say 1 lakh or 10 lakhs or koti, you can say it is imaginary. So precise as 3,339 cannot be any imaginary number for the count of Vishwadevas. How did it come is the question. This number, of course, comes up in several of the Vedic texts, which I have shown here in the Kata Samhita, Kapisthala Kata Samhita, so many places. But a clear explanation of this comes in the Brahmanda Purana. So the Brahmanda Purana discusses the way sun and moon, they represent the cosmos, and then how in the Krishna Paksha the deities are supposed to come and drink moon. All this is actually a Vedic concept. I briefly touched upon the Rig Veda, but this concept comes up in almost all the Brahmana texts, like the Taitiri Brahmana and also in the Shatapatha Brahmana, that in the Krishna Paksha, Soma is taken, drunk by the Devas. Now, how many Devas are there? Brahmanda Purana says each day one Deva comes, and this sequence continues for Trayascha, I have put here, Trayascha Trishataschaiva, Trayastrimshat Tataiva cha, Trayascha Trisahasrascha, Devaha Somam Pibanti Vai. Not only that, it says that this is how in the Krishna Paksha they drink, and in the Shukla Paksha it keeps on increasing again by the Sushumna rays of the sun. That is the model, that is the cosmic model. This is actually a cosmic model. So this number is 33. I am breaking down here 303 and 3003. It is the total number. Now, this is exactly same as what is there in the Rig Veda. Now, this is only in the dark fortnight. You can call this count a tithi if you want, or just a count of the nights. Now, if in the dark fortnight you can consider 3339, what happened to the bright fortnight, the Shukla Paksha? Time is goes on with both dark and light. The total is going to be 6678. Now, if you treat 1 month as nearly 30, let us keep it just a round number. 66 divided by 30 is 222.6 lunations. This is exactly the eclipse cycle of 223 synodic months. Now, we know that the Vedic months were lunar, but the year was solar. Now, if you see later things, a solar year, even the Vedanga Jyotisha of Lagada and others, they are taken as 371 Tithi or 372 Tithi, one of the two. Now, 6678 can be written as 371 and 18. That means if a year has 371 Tithis, once in 18 years, there is going to be an eclipse, as a lunar eclipse. This is actually the lunar eclipse cycle, which is unfortunately attributed to Chaldeans, which is called the Saros cycle. The Saros cycle, it is not mentioned in terms of the 223 months. There is a more fundamental counting number, that is the 3339 in the Vedas. And many of you have been knowing 18 years is also the Rahu Dasha in Indian astrology. Now, if you take the Savana year, which is taken generally as 360 days, I get 18.5 years is the Pata, which is the nodal period of the Siddhantic astronomers. Now, this was known for a very long time, even though the origin had been forgotten. And you can break it into the continued fractions. If you take 223 and 18 years, the convergents are like this, which I given 62 by 5. That is 62 synodic months is going to be 5 solar years. That is actually the 5-year Yuga calendar. Same thing happens if you take 241 as the sidereal month, 223 as the synodic month, then you get the final fraction as 67 by 62. Now, 62 by 5, 67 by 62 is the Vedanga calendar, the 5-year Yuga calendar. Now, in similarity of the Shukla and the Krishna Paksha being presided over by the number 15, this presided over the number 15, unfortunately, I can't explain. It is actually a arithmetical problem, a legend attributed to Prajapati, how Prajapati wanted to divide 720 by 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 24. And only when it got divided in 15, he was satisfied. And hence, 15 is the primal number. I'm emphasizing this. 15 is the Paksha length, the length of a fortnight. 30 is going to be the length of a month. Month is not necessarily in the beginning, full moon to full moon. It could be new moon to new moon or anything. Or the two pakshas is what was called a masa or a month in the Rig Veda in the beginning. And this 30 number is so popular in so many places in the Rig Veda. I have shown a few of them. I will not read them. It again refers to the division of the time, of the division of the sunrise to sunrise into 30 padas, that is the 30 feet or the steps of sun. And there are so many such relations with 30, which became later on 60, because 60 was a better number to handle because it is slightly more accurate. But 30 muhurta is from sunrise to sunrise is the Vedic concept. It is not the 60 Gatika, which was later after Aryabhata that came into picture. Originally, it was only the Muhurta. Even today, Muhurta is used. 30 Muhurta is something like 24 hours, we say, from sunrise to sunrise. The 30 is important because it is the origin of sexagesimal numbers. 30 into 2 is 60. So you can use easily 60. 60 and 6 seasons is going to be 360. That is what comes up almost everywhere in the Vedas. This is how the concept of time developed. And they measured even the time within a day. See, from day to day, you can do by sunrises, and you can say 1 year is 366 and all that one can do. But how did they do that within a day? In the morning, there were 5 divisions called the Prataha, Sangava, Madhyana, Aparanha, and Sayam. That is from sunrise to sunset. This, I think, in the earliest period, because this comes up in the Rig Veda itself, they divided that into 3 muhurtas depending on the position of sun. Sun when rises, it is called Prataha. And then after some time, it will be Sangava. They give another name description for that. Madhyana is easy, when almost at the center. And we had to follow this because in the northern hemisphere, sun always moves to our right, even though rising in the east. And the Puranas and the Vedas everywhere, it is said that sun does pradakshina of Meru. Pradakshina of Meru would be he goes to the south and then goes to the north. And north is Uttara, it is very high. Ut also in Sanskrit means up, not just north. That word north came up later on. Now, each of these intervals are the kshetra of sun in this sky. Now, slowly, from this, the shadow concept came up, measuring time in terms of shadow. I will not go into that, but the more interesting question, and it indicates the extraordinary intellectual approach of the Vedic people in determining time. There is a legend in the Aitareya Brahmana. The legend is again about Indra. Indra was afraid of the night, it says. I quoted the full mantra here of the Aitareya Brahmana. He wanted to go through the night and he was afraid. So he called all the devatas and asked, who will come with me? So that the night, which is controlled by the asuras, is not going to affect me. It's just a storytelling approach, or an akhyana as it is called, so that it is remembered. Because you remember or recollect that all our tradition was oral till about say the Maurya period or whatever we have is in a oral tradition. So that oral tradition had to have only upakhyanas, that is the stories. Then what happens? The Chandas comes and says, Chandas are the meters. That is Gayatri, Ushnika, Anuštapa, Brihati, like that. They say, we will come with you, we will carry you through the night. You remember the allegory here, the metaphor. Indra is the Kalabhimani Devata, and he wants to go through the night, that is the Kala, and he will be carried through night by whom? By the Chandas, by the meters. So the meters are a measure of time. It is already implied there. And this is the mantra which is said in the Somayaga even to this day. This has to be done. Now, this is where the reference to time, which is less than a day and which is actually the night time, comes up in the Vedic rites. That's in the Atiratra sacrifice. Atiratra, as the word means, is crossing the night. So the text reads, Tanve Pratmeneva Paryayena Pururatrad Anudanta Madhyamena Madhyaratrat Uttamena Apararatra. It divides the night into three units, and each will be by a cycle. Paryaya is a cycle. So by equal three cycles, they crossed over is the meaning of this. How did they do that? Now that is described in the Sayanacharya's commentary. Says Dasha Dasha Gatika Ekaiko Bhagaha. 10 Gatika is one Bhaga. Gatika was not there. Dasha Gatika would be 5 Muhurta. So in the Vedic period, it would be 5 Muhurta. But in the Sayana's time, Gatika was available. Gatika is actually a Gatika Yantra, a bowl which would sink in the water. I will come to that later. Now, this means they had a way of going through the night by chanting. And that is also available in the Aitareya Brahmana. Can't go into all the Brahmana texts, which are very large and very detailed. So the Atiratra Yaga, which is an Agnishtoma sacrifice, in the 17th chapter of the Aitareya Brahmana, it says the Ashwina Shastra hymns should be chanted, covering a part of the night till sunrise. These are all made up of the 7 meters, such that the recitation consists effectively 1000 Brihati verses, each of 36 syllables. That is 36,000 syllables. This is what is used in the Somayaga. Now you see that if 36,000 syllables have to be uttered, because Brihati is going to be 36, in a verse, and all those mantras are available in the Rig Veda. Even to this day, they are available. Now, that is what is called Brihati Sahasram. And there is another name for that, that is called the Prathar Anuvaka. Prathar Anuvaka is uttered even to this day in the various Somayagas. So, the details are available in the various Taittiriya Samhita, Taittiriya Brahmana, and Shankayana Shrauta Sutra. I will not go into that. You see that if you take sunset to sunrise as 15 Muhurta, the chanting started after the somewhere near the midnight, and before early morning they had to come out. So the rate of this would be about 7,500 to 7,900 akshara per muhurta of the Pratharanamaka, what is said in the text. But in practical cases, this may be different. And there are many things which what is given in the text, the shakas, that is the branches, are different. Now we have the Kaushitikis, we have the Aitareans, we have the Rigvedans, Yajurvedans. So the North Indian version, South Indian version, and then Kerala version, Orissa version kind of thing. There are differences, but the Rigvedic mantras are same all over India. And we contacted one person from Kerala who does this Somayaga. His name is Iti Ravindra Nambudri. His address is also there. And we asked him what is the speed with which he uses this Prataranamaka. What he did was very interesting. He said, I don't know about any of the texts that you are talking, Aitareya Brahmana. I do as per the Kaushitaki Brahmana text because my father and my grandfather taught me only that. And we don't do the whole of the, the Brihati Sahasra, but a part of it. That is what's called a Pratika. And his school, they totally used 12,396 aksharas. And that is precise. He wrote and gave us all of that. Which are the mantras they do? When they start around 3 a.m. and go up to 4:15 or 4:20 a.m. That is 1 hour 15 minutes or 1 hour 20 minutes. And these are the things which are used by them always in the Atiratra Somayaga. Now, and he also said it is all in the medium speed because in the Pratishakyas, there are three speeds are mentioned. Hey, these are all highly astronomical and mathematical issues because the concept of mathematics comes here. That is medium speed, fast, and slow. Whatever is medium, it is average by practice. Double that is going to be the fast. Half of that is going to be the slow. This is the medium, madhyama, sputa, and madhyamadhikara are the average thing, are the circle in the circular movement of the planets which came up in the astronomical things later. So the concept of time is the key for the science in this country, not only in this country, in any place for that matter. Now let me go further. From this, we got an idea that let's collect all the Rigveda uh, texts and see the number of syllables and see how people today do it. So this is an experiment which we did by the recorded Rigveda, one from Banaras, that's the North Indian speed, and one from Mysore, that is the South Indian version, how they do it. So I have plotted the time taken in seconds versus the number of aksharas, the various suktas of the Rigveda. This is published in the Indian Journal of History of Science. Somebody is interested, I can send them. So in the southern speed, in the southern style, per Gatika, it will be 3,650. Gatika is half Muhurta. So per Muhurta will be 7,300 Aksharas per Muhurta. Northern thing is exactly double or almost double that because it was at the double speed they recorded. It is not one third or one fourth or one fifth or three times that or something like that. And the second thing is, if you have to measure time, you need a linear scale. That means as it increases, it should linearly go. If it bends, then it becomes a nonlinear measurement like a scale. You have a chain and it gets into other issues. Maybe a time bends and relativity comes and all that. We are not talking of that. We are talking of physical time, which is useful for the common man. And this is actually straight line and linear. And the Siddhantic astronomy people, they exactly took up this. Um, 3,600 Gurvaksharas will make one Gatika in medium speed, and 7,200 Gurvakshara in a faster speed is what the Siddhantic astronomers say. And this actually, you can see, is combined with the years. Now, the year is going to be the Ayana. Ayana is measured in terms of sun, and sun, the shorter one is day to day, that is sunrise to sunrise. The longer one is sun from summer solstice to winter solstice, and again back with reference to the Magha Nakshatra is what they did. You remember in the first slide, I showed of the Maitrayani Aranyakam that Surya Yonihi Kalasya, then Magadhyam Shravishtardantam. That is the statement which comes. Sun, when he starts with Magha, that is the Dakshinayana starting. This is very important because this can be dated by modern astronomical methods. That has been done. And that has been done with reference to another text also, which is the Purana text. Both Brahmanda and Vishnu Purana say the same thing. Sharad Vasantayor Madhyam Vishuvat Paribhavyate Ahoratre Kalashchaiva Samam Soma Samashnute. Not going to the details. What it says is, you can see the circle figure which I have shown here. That is the Maghadi epoch. All the 27 nakshatras are written there on the outer thing. Number one is the first day of the summer solstice, and in each nakshatra, sun stays for 13 and 5 by 9 days, as per the Nidana Sutra of the Samaveda. So each nakshatra you can divide into equal number of days, and when you come to the opposite side, it will be 183, and it is the half of the Shravishta. And these are the visible nakshatras, visible asterisms. Today, some of them can be identified, some of them have shifted because of the precision of the equinoxes. But if we take it, the statement of Magan Shravishtarda, and also of what is given in the Puranas about the full moon, Kritikanam yada suryaha pratamamsha gato bhavet, Vishakanam tata jneyaha chaturtamshe nishakaraha. That is, when in the 1/4 of Kritika sun comes, 3/4 of Vishaka will be full moon. And why it is full moon? Ahoratre kalashchaiva samam soma samashnute. And Vishuvam tadvijaniya devamahur maharshiya. So it is the full moon at that time because it's exactly opposite to 180 degrees. 1/4 Kritika and 3/4 Vishaka will be 180 degrees away. So this full moon search can be done with modern softwares, which you have done. And this, and also the Magha summer solstice and Shravishta half winter solstice, exactly comes into 1900 to 1600 BC. This is again a published material. So we see that the definition of time itself in the Vedic period would have been very ancient, no doubt on that. But as a definition of time starting from sun was enunciated somewhere in 1900 BC. The reason for this appears to be several. Precision is one of the things. Second is the Saraswati River drying up and some disasters which happened during that period around 2000 BC. They would have thought about so many things and so much of observations would have been done, and this would have led to some statements of this kind, and fortunately we can date them. So at least 1800 BC there was a definition of time that it starts from sun. But if the paravidya has to be seen, you have to go behind sun. That is also very clear. So in the post-Vedic classical period, that is in the Siddhanta period, very simple, they did quite a bit of things. As you know, the mathematical astronomy grew so much from Aryabhata onwards. One of the important thing was the connection between breathing, our own breathing, and the aksharas, that is the number of syllables. But all this breathing, syllables, all this count, etc., they're all Vedic. The concept is Vedic. The astronomers, they did standardize this. So standardization for day-to-day affair is very important. So starting from Aryabhata and Varahamihira and his Panchasiddhantika, later on Bhaskara in the 7th century, they brought in new equipments, simple equipments, the sinking bowl, not the outflowing jalayantra. And in Panchasiddhantika, there is a shloka like this. Kumbardha karam tamram patram karyam mule chidram. It describes what type of vessel you should use for the sinking bowl. And it says, if you repeat this shloka 60 times, the same shloka, it will be equivalent to one ghatika, or one shloka is one vigatika. Vigatika is going to be 24 seconds. One ghatika will be 24 minutes, the modern thing. And this you can see should have been an extremely, extraordinarily intellectual period that is before the Common Era. There is a Vedic Brihati Sahasra, then there is a Lagvakshara in the Purana. Both Vishnu Purana and Brahmanda Purana gives one Muhurta will be not 14,000 but 13,500. Then Parashara Tantra gives another thing. Vedanga Jyotisha of Lagada gives another measurement. Siddhanta said one Muhurta has to be 7,200 Guru Akshara. And Bhaskara, he gave one more other than the Panchasiddhantika, and that is this Makante Pakshasyante Paryakashi. If these are used, this shloka, you can calibrate this. The reason for calibration is the following. He says that if this bowl sings 60 times, sunrise to sunrise, that is 60 Gatika. Now, who is going to sit there and keep on counting? And what one, if doesn't do, then what happens? You have to bring a new one and all that. This is what we know in engineering, in modern engineering. Any instrument has to be calibrated. And you have to have a smaller one for the carpenter or for the, the smithy people. They should fine tune it. And that shloka will be very helpful, not only for them, for so many people. So we did a experiment in Bangalore. We gave the two shlokas, the sample for both Bhaskara and Varahamihiras, and then asked them to record their answers, their speed, and send it.
वृत्तं पूर्णं चन्द्रं मत्वा रात्रौ चेत् क्षुक्षामप्राटंश्चेतश्चेतो राहुक्रूरप्रात्यात् तस्माद्ध्वान्ते हर्म्यस्यान्ते शय्यैकान्ते कर्तव्या.
See, it took 23.6 seconds. Obviously, there will be variation in any of these natural phenomena. And what we found was, on an average, it is going to be 24 seconds. That is 1% error is there. Now, this kind of shlokas were developed further also, because even in the functions, the marriage functions and others, today, the muhurta is fixed, the gatika is given, so many gatikas from the Suryodaya, and Vigatika is also mentioned. How does the priest know about the Vigatika? Gatika, you can keep a bowl and see, because Vigatika is going to be only 24 seconds. So there are shlokas of this kind were developed, which they could repeat so many times and know that 3 Vigatikas, 4 Vigatikas, or 10 Vigatikas have elapsed for the particular muhurta to come. So I'm coming towards the end. The Vedic definition of measurable time, stated to be from birth of sun, is textually evidenced in the Maitrani Aranyaka in a historical period. It is around 1800 BC. But this must have come from Rigvedic time or even earlier, like the Prataranavaka, Brihati Sahasra, and all that. So Taittiriya Aranyaka explains that time is like a river where time units add up. This unit is important because they are the kala, adding up to form the samvatsara. Because it's a very extremely philosophical question whether time is continuous or discrete. It has to be continuous in one way, but we know it only discretely. Even as I speak, time is going away. So unique concept of evolutionary modes of life also is inherited. Because of time, it need not be very short, and the question of past comes up. Past before River Saraswati, what happened and all that. That natural history of Irina and Arbuda are available in the Vedic texts. Irina is actually the Ran of Kutch. It comes up in the Rig Veda. And Arbuda, that Indra hit Arbuda. Indra, you remember, is a Kalabhimani Devata. And he hit Arbuda, and that mountain got reduced. His head was cut. This may be a physical representation of the Aravali River sinking as it approaches the Delhi region, the Delhi Ridge. That is a geological phenomenon where Saraswati dried up and Yamuna River turned to the east. So these things are codified or in a akhyana manner, as in a story manner, they're still there in the Vedas. Now, this is a very older, ancient time. Similarly, we have the concept of Kalagni Rudra, and he is hailed as Irinya in the Yajurveda. Irinya is somebody who is in the Irina, maybe something which fell in the Irina and all that. Now, how this infinite past was also built into our culture, that comes up in the Puranas, and that would depend not only on the Saraswati and the drying up and the impact, comets, and the eclipse period, which I have already mentioned, but also of Dhruva being movable. Dhruva is, as you know, is the pole star, the original. The story of Dhruva, all of you know, I'm not going to repeat it. Dhruva was also called Achyuta. Later on, he was equated with Vishnu and all that. But apart from all the stories, the best Dhruva story or the mantra is in the Taittiriya Aranyaka. Was a star in the constellation called Shishumara, which is today called Draco constellation. Draco. That will take too much of time, so I can't go into that Shishumara description with 14 stars. And the tip of that animal was Dhruva, who was fixed. He was originally called Abhaya, the fearless Dhruva. But in the Bhagavata Purana, there is a reference to, of course, there are a lot of references to Dhruva, no doubt. If you take them in only a physical sense or in the mundane sense, okay, you will get some meaning. That Dhruva married somebody, Dhruva's wife's name was Brahmi, and Brahmi's father was Shishumara, and the union of these two, they got two children. One was named Vatsara, one was called Kalpa. But if you see it in perspective, this is time actually. Dhruva, the pole star, who was in the Shishumara constellation, but Shishumara started to rotate Dhruva, that is Brahmi. So he started moving. And this movement between of Dhruva in the Shishumara brought out two new people, concepts, esoteric concept of Vatsara and the Kalpa. Kalpa is the longer period, Vatsara is the shorter period. And you have seen already Nimisha, Truti, and the Muhurtas and all that. The Kalpa also came up. So this is obviously a Dhruva fixed pole star in the Shishumara going, turning around. And we know that this can be established by modern astronomy very well, that Tuban, that is the modern name of Dhruva in the Alpha Draconis, that was fixed in 2850 plus or minus 200 BC, and somewhere around 3000 BC. That was the pole star. And that pole star was the one which in the Hindu marriage rites of the Dhruva Darshana, the Vedic marriage rites, had to be seen. Of course, today that original Dhruva or in the Draco is not visible, but a substitute is the present day Dhruva, which is there, the fixed Dhruva, still fixed in letter and spirit. That was brought into vogue in Varanasi, actually in the 17th century, by an astronomer called Kamalakar Bhatta. I can't go into the details again, because it comes into the Siddhantic period. He said the Dhruva to be shown to the bride is the one which is at particular latitude and longitude. He gave the coordinates. Now, this ancient time, there is so much of time concept in the Vedas. The more ancient time before 2000 BC or the 3000 BC, how did it come up? It comes up in again through one of the yagas, that is in the Agnishtoma and Pravadya and in other yagas, Agnichayana and Pravadya. There is one particular material which has to be used. That is quite surprisingly called Valmika Vapa. Valmika Vapa is actually a termite mound.
Sir,
It is not the mound itself, but something which is inside. It is a vapa which is like a fungus cover that has to be brought and kept below. It is only the mud which has to be kept before starting the Vedi and all that. Why? The Taittiriya Aranyaka says, Tevih Vamrir Asya Bhutasya Pratamaja Ratavarihi. This termite was the first living being which started, or one of the first living beings on this earth, Pratamaja. That is why that had to be kept. Maybe they knew that it was very old, because modern science says termites were 250 million years old. Now, this may be the reason why later on in Hinduism, Saligrama is brought in. Saligrama
Sir,
Shiva, Vishnu is directly present there. No Pratishtha is needed. And this Saligrama is about 500 million years old, the manifestation of Vishnu. Hence,
hello,
the
sir.
sense of past as historical time is esoteric, although in religious practices, it is tangible to all of us. So, Puranic societal memory, recent past, and the present continuous. This is my last slide. So, Indra, yeah, I had taken 10 minutes more because I started late.
Sir, please, yeah, please
Yeah,
conclude
yes,
in
yes.
one.
Because you started me late, so you had to give me this last slide. Indra seeking help from Chandas to travel in the Atiratra led to Brihati Sahasra, making 36,000 aksharas from midnight till birds start chirping. This was the starting of time. So Indra drinking 30 cups of soma started to the longer Manvantara Kalpa and all. And the Vedic advice, Kalam Brahmetyupasita, again the first Maitri Aranyaka, it applies equally to all of us, all people who follow Sanatana Dharma, Vaishnava, Shaiva, Shaktar, even atheist. True to this, the primary sources have preserved all this text quite well. Now, prior to this period, before the 3000 BC, the continuing religious practice, what does it indicate to us? It wants us to contemplate on cosmogony and the cosmography of the solar system and beyond. And this is the reason why I agreed to give a talk in this conference, which was about cosmology and Vedic cosmology. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for your informative lecture and sharing detailed insights on physical time and the Vedas. So now we will go for the question and answer session. So the first question from BAK, Bangalore University. So there are two questions in this. The measurement of time in Vedic times is at best approximate depending on the motion of the sun. Does it have any relevance in the present time, apart from historical curiosity?
Yeah.
And
Um,
yeah, I will
Well,
listen.
it's always interesting to develop an intellectual approach to our history. So it is of historical curiosity is as good as intellectual curiosity. The idea is this: if we know what is our root, how did we start, how did we develop our own intellectual tradition, the newer generation will do something new. So without the roots being correctly known, that time is the fundamental thing. You see, the measurement of how did they do in the Vedic time is important for us to know that. The second question is dimension. They are available. The dimension of the bowl and all that is available, and this has been verified by so many people all over the world. It is not only in India. In Germany, they have tried to prepare these bowls and see what is the error contained in this and all that. So all this information is available. It is not a spherical bowl. I showed you some of the figures. Some of them are available even in the museums to this day. And one of that, which is in the Madras Museum, which was put to test, and the error was only about 0.5% or so for one Gatika. So that is the answer. The dimensions
Okay.
are available. I can't keep on repeating them. It was actually in the shloka, which Varahamira gave. He had given the dimension. It is actually a tube you have to take and all that. Since the questioner is from Bangalore, he can come to Jain University. I will give all the details.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So next question. Next question from Kumar Ravi, Swami Vivekanand University, Barakpur, West Bengal. It seems that current IKS research often follows a domain-driven approach, scanning many texts for specific fields such as engineering, astronomy, metallurgy, etc. An alternative is a text-centric approach, systematically extracting and compiling all knowledge from individual text for subsequent domain-wise use. How do you access this alternative in terms of its strength, limitation, and practical challenge?
Well, I find both are more or less same. They are overlapping. You can start with some domain, telling, okay, engineering is a domain, all the text in engineering is collected to it, or approach it from the text which is near to you, which is available to you, which has not been published, whatever may be the domain, and start doing it. But the problem is, unless the domain knowledge is brought out, simple literal translation of Sanskrit is of no use. That is, the dictionary based translation of Sanskrit or AI based translation of a technical Sanskrit book, I find it will not be of very little use. I mean, as a scientist and as an engineer, that is my personal feeling. And the reason is all the more important in these exact sciences or positive sciences. If it is going to be in philosophy or in some liberal arts area, it may not matter because difference of opinion will always be there. But in scientific fields, more or less there is large amount of convergence, and there is going to be a way that it can be verified by others. So in science, it should be verifiable. Others also are reproducible by others. That reproduction, as the previous questioner asked, if you have a bowl, will it produce one gatika today? If it sinks, yeah, with some small variation, with 0.5% variation, it will produce. That can be reproduced. So for that approach, it is important the domain background should be brought out.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the next question from Rajesh: is there any discussion in the Vedic text linking Kala to consciousness or mind?
Well, this is a very loaded question because we are putting up words in English. Kala is Sanskrit. As I said, it is made of kala. That is parts, what you may call quanta or something like that. And when you say consciousness or mind, you don't use the word Sanskrit word Chaitanya or Manas or Prajna or things like that. They are all connected, no doubt. Yeah, there is tremendous amount of discussion in the Vedic text, particularly in the yogic text, the Yoga Sutra, about time and consciousness. It is there.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for addressing this question. And now we have the last question for this talk from Yogesh, IIT Bhubaneswar. If the Maitriyaninya Aranyakya Upanishad states that before the sun there was Akala, no time, does this imply that time is fundamentally emergent rather than absolute?
Very fine question. Thank you so much for the question. I think it means it is emergent. That is why it says para is behind sun. And you know that Suryopasana is the most important thing. And manifestation of sun, from there the time started. The Puranas say that it is 2.3 billion years old. I mean, when there is this Swayambhuva Manvantara, it's 2.3 billion years old. Modern people may say it is 4.5 billion years. It doesn't matter. It is as good as something which is infinitely past. So it is actually emergent rather than absolute. I think so. I mean, in word, so long as this can be expressed in language, it is emergent.
Okay. Thank you for addressing all the questions and for insightful talk. Now, we would like to thank you for your presence and enlightening us with the physical time and the relation with Veda. And thank you very much, sir, for your presence and lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much.